What's up? This is ChrisLee, and I'm hanging out with Rob from Front Row Live.
Let's talk about Love Struck and that initial process of creating it. First of all, I love how the song focuses more on the delicate voice and the lyrics, and not so much on the sonics around it. Was that something that you had in mind when you were writing the song, or did this kind of happen as you started to record it in the studio?
The truth is, we did that in a very short amount of time when we did it. It was a combination of, I don't know if you heard the iHeartRadio podcast, but they really kind of break down the whole thing, where I show kind of the first voice memo that was ever created of it, which is like my friend Jerry was in town and he was just playing some chords in a room. Like, it was not an intentional writing session by any means, and I just liked the vibe of the chords and how it sounded, so I just turned on a voice memo and started recording and just started improvising the first melodies that came to me. And I ended up liking it so much and looking over the melodies that I asked Jerry to lay down just the guitar before he left to go back to the East Coast. And so he popped in the studio, laid down the chords real quick, and then I went off to a photo shoot. And on the way, I wrote the lyrics to it, like in the car, just listening on repeat, and then came back to the studio with a friend of mine, Jimmy, and we produced out the demo. And it was really just like, all we did was add a bass, some drums, and vocals, and then it just kind of sat there in demo form. Like, I loved it. I had every intention on doing something with it, and then like my life got a little bit crazy for about a year, and I ended up submitting it to Songland, just like, I'll see what happens with this. Why not? Might as well. And then it got crazy.
So what was your mindset for the first time you performed it in front of them? It was strictly like stripped down acoustic.
Yep.
So why did you decide to do it that way instead of having that full production that you kind of had on the actual recording?
Well, the band did play out most of that production for the most part. They included and triggered a lot of the stems. I just played the acoustic guitar because it was keeping true to the acoustic guitar in the recording originally. But that's just generally, even as an artist myself, that's kind of how I am the most comfortable and feel the most connected to what I'm doing. So I figured why break that cycle? And I felt like between the band and I, we could really represent the record well anyway. So it was more just, we were trying to pay homage to the original demo and the elements that were added, and then the band just kind of added their own flares from rehearsals. So it was more just kind of representing what it was.
Now, when you performed to them again for the first time, and they kind of jumped in and kind of had ideas to kind of make it the way that we hear it today. What was going through your mind through that? Because I mean, that must be such a cool experience, being able to kind of recreate that song with the artist right there and then. So, what really happened while this was going on?
Man, I was just so excited about this being a show and a concept for a show. I think the actual art of songwriting and that initial spark of those ideas that are kind of flying around, I've been in those situations for such a long period of time in my life that I was just excited to do that first and foremost. And then secondly, to do that in a setting where you get to do it with the artist and you get to see them react and like feel involved in the creative process and be able to throw out ideas. And in the studio sessions on the show, Wanye called in and was just so excited and like wanted to give his ideas, and he was calling us while we were in the studio, and like, I loved it, like, this is amazing, like, maybe say this. And just to have that sort of engagement, because most of the pitching process in the songwriting world is very like through emails and A&Rs and like not very connected, and you're like, do they want it? And then you might get a call in like 2 years, be like, oh, we're recording this, it's going to be out next week. So like the fact that it was done in a way where you could have that feedback and this energy and a live band that kills it, and like I mean, it's kind of a dream scenario as far as pitching a record is concerned.
Now, do you see yourself as an artist first or a songwriter first? Which one is it?
I see them very interconnected. I don't know. I don't really see a difference. Part of my artistry is my songwriting, and I like both of them a ton. Because I like writing so many different styles, and unfortunately with artistry, sometimes going all over the place isn't exactly what an audience is looking for from you. It's a good outlet to send songs that maybe don't work for myself, or other ones that I like creating, because I'm a creator. I like creating art in any form, and I like cooking. I like all these types of things. So I think they're super interconnected. It's hard to kind of put one above the other for me, but I'm always an artist and I'm always a songwriter, and it just kind of depends on what the song is and whether I think it fits who I am in that moment, or the brand that I'm trying to push as an artist, or if it doesn't. And, sometimes in an opportunity like this, you kind of get to fuel both fires at the same time. You get to show people what you're like as an artist on a song, and then also pass it off to an artist with a bigger platform and people who can do it justice in a very different way. So kind of both. I mean, it's really hard for me. I get that question a lot. What is it first? What's more important to you? And they're both super important to me, and they both have different values in my life, for sure.
I think this is probably the first time that someone has actually said they're both equally important. Usually they have that, which is interesting because, you would think that, they go hand in hand.
Yeah, I feel like people feel like they need to be entrenched in one camp or the other. And for me, I turned down record deals when I was younger because they wanted to write everything for me. And to me, that wasn't part of what my artistry was. My artistry had to do with the words that I chose and the voice and the story. To me, I give this example sometimes. It's the difference between Windows and Mac. Windows license their operating system out to everybody, and Mac makes their software with their hardware, because they believe it's important to have them together. And that's kind of how I feel. I'm more on the Mac side of things as far as putting things, software and hardware have to go together for me. I need to be involved in my writing process to put it in this hardware.
Right. No, and I respect that. I feel like there's a lot of artists that take advantage of that record deal, but they don't know how to write a song, or they don't know that writing structure, or they don't have... when it comes down to singing the song, there's really no actual emotion coming out of them because they don't connect to it. So, it's great that you're doing it the way that you are. And
there's some performers who are great at that. Like a Beyonce, right? She might not write in pen all of her stuff. But she's an incredible performer. People like Whitney Houston are incredible performers, and that's their art. That's what they represent as their artistry. It's just different. To me, there's no right or wrong there. It's just what do you connect with? And for me, what I talk about in my voice and my story is just as important as the actual performance medium itself.
So now that this show aired, Boyz II Men dropped the single. What's next for you? What are the plans for ChrisLee for the next few months?
Definitely a lot more writing. I have another song that I wrote that's in the UK, and it's in the top 20 right now for all the records. It's a record called Don't Need Love by 220 Kid and Gracie. So I'm just promoting that and promoting the Boyz II Men stuff, because fortunately we live in a day and age where the songwriting can be part of my artistry because of social media, and I can do covers of it and push it in my own way, and people can still identify with it as my art. And then I'm also working on new music all the time, working on a visual EP. Kind of got a little bit sidetracked with everything that went on in the world. We had a whole plan of shooting a whole visual EP and getting stuff ready, but just getting some of my own stuff ready and continually writing for other artists and hopping in other sessions and producing for other people. Kind of a wide gamut of things, but definitely some new music coming out pretty shortly, and more songwriting to be done.